Okay, so am I audible properly? Okay, good evening everyone. So today we are going to learn about advanced HTML. Okay, one second. Is my screen visible? Okay, so in advanced HTML today we are going to cover about advanced topics on HTML, advanced tags. Okay, so these are kind of professional developers tags. Okay, these are not known by beginner developers, so please focus on this today. Okay, because these will be useful in making complex websites. Okay, so first we'll cover what was the problem with traditional HTML. Okay, currently the version of HTML is HTML5. Okay, currently the version is HTML5. Okay, so before HTML5, developers used generic tags like div and span elements with CSS classes. Now, what does this mean? That if I wanted to create a website, and let's say I wanted to give a header. Okay, means the let's say the nav bar. Let's say the nav bar. Okay. Now what happens in modern HTML that we use this nav tag. Okay, but earlier what used to happen, developers used to use div tag. Okay, and give a class name as div dot nav or navigation. Okay, whatever was sensible. Okay, same for the footer. Currently we have the footer tag. Okay, earlier what used to happen, developers used to write it as div dot footer. Okay, so this was the traditional HTML's problem. Now what was actually the problem? Problem was that the screen reader wouldn't understand that which part was what. Okay, like screen reader won't understand by reading the class name that okay, this div is navigation, this div is footer. Okay, so also search engines, basically the search engines struggle to understand page structure. Okay, search engines didn't understand that okay, div class is navigation, so this is navbar and stuff. Okay, so there was a lot of problem. Also there was a problem in documentation. Okay, means the structure. So then came the HTML5 semantic solution. Okay, what are semantic tags? Such tags which have a meaning in their name. Okay, HTML5 introduced elements that describe their content's meaning, not just appearance. Okay, so today we are going to learn about that semantic tags. Some semantic tags are header. Okay, next we have nav for navbar. Okay, main for the main section. Okay, article. Okay, for some articles. Okay, we want to distribute sections. There are a lot of sections in our website. We have this section tag. I told you about this yesterday also. Okay, the sidebar which we see, for example, this is the sidebar. For this we can use the aside tag. Okay, then we have the footer tag. We discussed about it yesterday also. What is footer? Okay, then we have a time tag. Okay, for date and time, which is machine readable. Okay, so HTML5 creates an implicit document outline, okay, using sectioning elements like article, section, nav, aside. These are for used for basically structuring the website, okay. Like aside used for sidebar, section is used for a specific section, okay, and main for the main section on the top, okay, nav for nav bar, footer for footer, okay. And there are heading elements also. Heading elements we discussed yesterday, the heading tags, okay, from h1 to h6. And the hierarchy, we know what is the proper hierarchy. Let's discuss about the hierarchy or the tree structure. First comes the h1, main title, okay. Then comes the h2 tag, okay, section title. Then the h3 tag, which is subsection title. Next is the another subsection. Let me show you visually what exactly I am trying to create. Then the h2 tag, again another section. This is the proper way of creating the hierarchy of a heading. Okay, that's looking kind of good, okay, structured. Now what exactly happens with semantic tags is screen readers are able to create navigation menus, okay, for blind people. Also we can navigate with keyboard, okay. If you don't know, we can navigate any website using this tab button. You can try it on your systems. See, by pressing the tab we can navigate anything. I hope you see on my screen how I'm navigating, okay, using tab for forward navigation and shift plus tab for backward navigation, okay. So semantic HTML helped us to do this, okay. Also search engines were able to understand the structure properly for the website, okay. So what does the SEO theory tells us? So search engine use semantic elements to understand page structure, okay. Page structure means, as I've discussed, what is header, what is footer, what is section, okay, and identify main content and supplementary content, okay. Main content, what is our main content? The actual content inside the main tag, okay. Example, the main content here in the Google Meet is this section, okay, not this one or this one or this one. This is actually the main content, okay. And we can create rich snippets in search results, okay. And our website will have a good rank also, okay. So basically whatever we learned, let's try to do it, apply it properly in a project, okay. So we'll create a project. It will be a news website, news page .html. Create the basic structure, name it as tech news today with latest tech updates, okay. Can anyone tell me what another tag do I miss here, am I missing here, and I need to put it for a proper SEO? in the head section, what tag am I missing here? Which I should put for a better practice. Okay, so I'm missing the description. Okay, the meta description, meta name description. Okay, so I have a mock description here. Okay, next we are working on body. So inside the body, as we have learned about the header tag, now what exactly is the header going to do? We have a attribute in header called banner. Okay, and we studied about this h1 tag, paragraph tag and nav tag yesterday only, right? If not yesterday, nav we have studied today. Okay, let's give a role to nav also for navigation, correct? Okay, and yeah, so what we have created here basically is the nav bar. Okay, the head tag which contains the nav bar, header tag which contains the nav bar. Okay, so this is the nav bar, and I'm going to add some CSS. We will cover CSS in some other part, not some other part, actually the next part after this advanced HTML. So currently focus on HTML only. I'm giving this to make the website look proper. Okay, margin 0, padding 0, box sizing border box. If you all want to follow me, you can follow me. Okay, next we are going to target the body. Okay, and our header ultimately. Okay, and basically inside the header we are going to create a div called header content. Okay, see, through the CSS we can achieve styling. Okay, this style is basically from the CSS which I gave just now. Okay, and let's give more styling to make it look more better. Header content, max width, let's take max width as 1200 pixels, and margin auto, no, actually take margin okay, 0 and auto. Let's see how does it look. Okay, and padding also, let's take it in rem. Okay, and next we are going to give styles to our navigation UL tag. Okay, list style will be none. This CSS property is basically used to remove the bullet points that are made by this UL tag. Okay, let me show you what exactly I'm saying. See, these are the points which are appearing. So in order to remove this, we use this CSS list style none. Okay, and we need all the items in one line. So we'll use property called display flex, and okay, everything is in one line. We need some spacing in between this, so let's give a spacing like margin top as 1 rem. So we got some spacing here. Now let's style the li, means the items exactly. So we'll do nothing, just we'll give some spacing between them, margin right to the right. Okay, and the spacing will be 2 rem. So it got some spaces. Okay, also there are anchor tags inside the li. Okay, now can anyone tell me what is exactly is anchor tag used for? Okay, great. So it's used for links. Okay, to redirect a user to another link or another part. Okay, so the default behavior of anchor tag is if we click on this, if we click on one of the link, it changes its color. Okay, see, the color got changed to purple. And also the default behavior of anchor tag is it has an underline and the default color is blue. Okay, so we are going to change those properties. Okay, okay, nav a, we'll change the default color to white. Okay, and we'll change the basically we'll remove the underline which is by default by using this property text decoration as none. Okay, and we'll give some padding. Basically padding, what it does, it gives internal spacing to the elements. Okay, let me show you padding. Before that, for better understanding of padding, I must give them a background color of let's say some visible color. Okay, so see, now it has this much spacing only. As soon as I give padding, what happens is it takes some internal spacing. Okay, let's say let's give it 0.5 rem and 1 rem. See, now what happens is it takes automatically internal spacing. Okay, so now we can remove the background color. Also one thing, we can give border radius to them. Okay, what does border radius mean? The border radius means the rounded corners which we see on the buttons. Okay, see, automatically it's coming, and now see, it got some border radius. Okay, it's not applicable now. We'll see it. Where is it applicable? We'll give some transition like animations. Okay, transition of background 0.3 seconds is okay, done. Now see, we gave the transition also and we gave the border radius also, but as I told you, as I showed you, there was a radius rounded corner, but currently we are not able to see it. Okay, so how are we going to see the radius, the rounded corner? For that we have a hover class. Okay, what is a hover class? Let me tell you what is actually hover. When we take the cursor pointer to some element, we are hovering on it basically. Okay, not clicking but hovering. Okay, so that is called hover. So how do we give some stylings to the element when we hover on that element? Okay, so for that also we have CSS nav hover. Okay, basically whichever element hover property we want to target, we'll name that element first. Basically we are pointing the anchor tag here. Okay, and we are pointing its hover property by giving a colon and hover. Okay, so I want to give it a background of I'll give a RGBA color 255 0.2. Okay, so see, this was basically what I was designing. Okay, we have the rounded corners also. Okay, it looks smooth also while transitioning. Okay, this is all because of this transition property. Okay, and the rounded corners is because of this border radius. Okay, and if we remove the padding, see what happens. It basically loses its internal spacing. Okay, as soon as we keep the padding, there is some spaces also. Okay, and also it takes the internal spacing. Okay, okay, so we designed our header part. Now let's move to next part, which is the main part. Main part, we'll use the main tag. Okay, and we'll assign the role as main. Okay, and here we'll add a section tag. Okay, with id as article. Now why are we giving an id is because if we look into our header part, we gave the anchor tags here. Okay, and we have targeted some IDs basically. Okay, now how do I know that basically we are targeting ID? Because we are using hashtags here. Okay, whenever we use hashtags in hrefs of anchor tag, it basically means we are targeting some part of the page. Okay, it won't redirect us to new page, but basically it will redirect us to new part of the page. Okay, okay, we'll see it into action in some time. Before that, let's design this section article. Okay, and we'll give some properties like item type. Okay, and this one, not this one. Okay, so we are defining our section tag here, and after that we'll use one more header called h2 dot item prop, no, latest tech innovations. Okay, the tag and the proper indentation. Now we'll give a paragraph. Okay, and basically we can use the strong tag here. Okay, what we can define in strong tag is item prop author Jane Doe. Okay, see, we got this one, latest tech innovation, and the author's name is in bold. Okay, also we can put a hyphen. Okay, so what tags till now we have used is the header tag, the navigation tag, okay, and the main tag, the section tag, article tags. Okay, now let's move further and wrap this inside this paragraph only. Now it looks good. Okay, and let's move out of the heading and let's actually design the article. Okay, div item property article body. Okay, now we have some mistake here in the CSS because this part is also coming in under this header. Okay, so basically what's the mistake? I guess you're missing some tag. Okay, we'll focus on that later. First let's design it properly. Okay, so article body, and next we'll use a figure tag. Okay, what is a figure tag? Let me show you. Figure tag in image we can use some src like http. This is a random picture. Okay, pixel.photos slash 600 slash 300 random quantum. Okay, so this is basically a random picture. Okay, and for good practice we need to mention the alternative tag, of course. Okay, and then we'll give a tag called fig caption. Okay, figure caption basically. IBM's latest quantum demonstrates something. Okay, so what basically is this doing? This is a individual part. Okay, if you see here, if you click on this, see, this is the individual part which this figure caption is defining the images or basically the figures description. Okay, so next we have the footer tag. Okay, after the div we're going to put the footer. Okay, inside the p tags we're going to use the anchor tag anchor tag href as #quantum. Okay, relation will be tag. Okay, and name this as quantum computing. Okay, so we got this. Okay, tags as quantum computing. Now whenever we click on this, we will reach this section, okay, because of this anchor tag. Okay, so ultimately we are going to define our main footer outside the main tag. Okay, this was the main section. So outside the main section we are going to define our footer. Inside that we are going to define our div with a class called footer content. Okay, inside this we will have p tag with copy. Now this is a special symbol. Okay, what symbol is this? This is for copyright symbol. Okay, if we write this, okay, we'll get the copyright symbol. Okay, at the rate 2025 tech news today, all rights reserved. Okay, so we got this. Okay, now let's put some styling to it, basically the footer. So the footer, you can basically give some basic stylings like this. Okay, so this is our basic styling. Okay, so herein what we used some basic tags. Okay, semantic tags. Okay, and what did we miss? Basically we missed the aside tag, right? So let's use the aside tag also here. Let's see what it does. So after the section, aside tag, aside. Okay, inside this we'll create another section. Okay, we'll give it a heading as trending topics, and we'll basically create a nav. Okay, with a UL and some li with a. So what is the structure? The structure is basically I want 5 li tags with anchor tags inside it. Okay, this is a shortcut for creating the HTML. See, I guess no, this was the wrong way. This is the correct way, I guess. Nope. Okay, let's create li into 5. Okay, and what we can do is press alt, click on wherever we want the anchor tags and put the anchor tags there. Okay, so now in each anchor tags what I am going to give is some topics. Okay, AI and machine learning, let's say ML, and VR. Okay, full stack web development, ethical hacking, and quantum computing. Okay, and our section is basically complete. Let's create a new section. Wherein we will have an h3 tag. again for newsletter sign up. I will have a p tag, get the latest tech insights delivered to you. Okay, and currently we are going to take users input. Now how do we take users input? Okay, basically if you have seen Instagram or Facebook, so in a typical Facebook page, what it asks us is to log in using what? Using email address and sign up. Okay, so this is basically a form. Okay, and this is the submit button, and these are the input fields. Okay, similarly in a one second. So similarly in the sign up, newsletter sign up, we get an option for inputting our email. Okay, for example, let's see the TS Bridge Edu's website. In the bottom, if you go and see, there is a newsletter sign up, and if you see here, you have an email address and a submit button. Okay, so this basically is a form. Okay, this is the input tag, and within an input tag is the send button. Okay, so we are going to create something similar here. So for that, we'll first of all create a form. Okay, and inside it we'll give a label. Okay, now what is this label for? This label is for newsletter email. Okay, and what exactly is the label? Label will be the email address. Label is nothing but the label for the input tag. Let me show you what I am telling. See, there is an input tag which actually takes the user's input. Okay, now also the input types are of many types. Okay, like as you can see here, we have date, time, date, okay, color, checkbox. So here in our case we need the email. We will put the ID as newsletter email, and the same ID will pass in label here. Okay, and basically when we submit the form, we get the data, right? So in the data, if the data is something like this, for example, let's say you submitted your email as xyz@email.com. So it's so hard to understand for a common man, okay, that or for the computer itself, that what exactly this is, what kind of data this is. So for that reason we give this name, okay, to differentiate what data is what. Okay, and this required attribute means that if we don't provide the email, okay, it won't allow us to submit. Let's say I need a submit button also. So we have a button tag. Okay, so this button tag, what it will do, will help us subscribe the newsletter. But before that, we need to mention what exactly is the type of this button. So there are three types of buttons. Okay, one acting as a normal button, one acting as a reset button. Now reset button does what? Okay, this resets the form. Okay, let me show you in live. If I create a reset button, type reset. Okay, if I write something here randomly, see, it resets our form. Okay, and the submit button, what it will do, the submit button will help us submit the form data. Okay, whatever we have written here, it will help us submit the form data and send it to the backend. Okay, so that is the later part. When we'll study JavaScript, we'll look into that. Okay, so our form is also complete. Now what we need is some more details. So we'll create another section, and we will basically show here recent comments. Okay, and we can use the article tag here, exactly here. So we'll use the h4 on AI revolution in 2025. Okay, inside the p tag we'll create the strong tag tech enthusiasts. Sorry, spelling is wrong. Enthusiast. And great insights on AI. Okay, also I mentioned about a time tag, right? So within the time we can define the date time. Okay, date time in either UTC format or IST format. I hope everyone knows what is UTC and IST. If you don't know, it is a time format, okay, which contains both date and time. Okay, UTC is international time, and IST is our Indian standard time. Okay, as per our time zones. So 2025 0618 T 11:45 00Z. So 2 hours ago. Okay, so it's currently looking ugly, I know. We'll design this article done. Okay, so now let's design design the CSS part. So first of all, we'll design the aside tag, and we'll give some background padding and border radius. Also we'll give the height as fit content. Okay, and then we'll design the sections inside the aside. Okay, we'll simply give them margin bottom of 2 rem. Now what is rem and what is this margin, I'll explain you all in CSS. Okay, but for now just focus how am I actually doing it. Okay, aside, now we are going to design the h3 tag inside. Aside tag. Okay, we're going to use the color tag. Okay, just tag to C3E50. Okay, and margin bottom will be again 1 rem. Okay, and now we'll design the UL tag. Can anyone tell me in between that what exactly does UL mean? Hello, am I audible? If I'm audible, please tell me. Yes? Okay. So here we designed the list tags, okay, the unordered list tags, okay, and next we'll be designing the side over. Okay, so done. We designed the side. Let's give some CSS to articles also. Background white. Okay, so now it's looking somewhat good. Okay, and a side section. Okay, not looking good, right? Sorry, I actually targeted the article header. So an article header in a background as none, some color to it, hashtag 333, and padding we can give 0 0 1 rem 0. Okay, okay, and what more we can give is a border bottom. Okay, border bottom of 2 pixels, and it will be solid e2 e2 e2. Yeah, it's visible. Okay, and next we are going to design our h2. So in h2 can give the font size 1.8 rem, and we can give some color also additionally, 7 7 f8c fd. Okay, and the time part, article time, yeah, sure. Is it okay now? Okay, so article time, we're going to give it some color as hashtag 7f8c8d. Okay, and font size as 0.9 rem. Okay, so we have designed this part also. Okay, so this is basically what what we were designing. Okay, this was the header part, this was the article part. Okay, this was the aside part. Okay, this basically is meant to be in this area, okay, as a sidebar, but currently we are not using advanced CSS. Okay, so you can assume it here as a side tag. Okay, and basically our footer will be like this. Okay, in the bottom. Okay, so I'll be uploading this repository, okay, and sharing it to you all. You can go through it. Now let's move to another part, some advanced form theory. Okay, because form is equally mandatory, okay, not mandatory, compulsory to learn, okay, when we are building a website, because each and every website has some kind of form, okay, whether it's a blogging page or a e-commerce page or a entertainment page, okay, each and every website has a form, so we need to work on form. So before HTML5, okay, HTML required JavaScript. Why? Because to validate the form. Now what is form validation? Is form validation, forms.html. Assume that I created a form, okay, I created a form, okay, and I created an input tag like for email, okay. Now I know that this is for email, okay, this input is for email, but how does the backend know, and how does the backend validate that the user sent an email? And the user can send something like let me show you. User will send something like this and it will get submitted, okay, there is no validation. So also if the user wanted to select a date, let's say date of birth, okay, uh, how would he enter? Some user would enter that date of birth like this, 96 1998, and some would enter like 1998, so there will be lot of mismatch in data structure, okay. So in order to prevent all this, we had input tags, okay, the types basically which we saw. So there came in HTML version 5, there came a lot of types, okay, in input tags, okay, lot of types for proper validation. Let's say you wanted the user to select their date of birth, okay. So basically what you will do simply is write the input tag and mention the property type as date, okay, and we'll pass the placeholder as select your DOB. Okay, the placeholder won't be visible here, so we will use the label here, okay, label for DOB input. Select your DOB. And we don't need a placeholder in date. Now we'll pass the ID mandatorily for DOB input. Now see, it's asking us to select our date of birth, so here we can simply choose the date, okay. So how simple it was. Now next what we need is, let's say, color, okay, color, okay. So see, if we want the user to select their favorite color, they can just drag and select here their favorite color, okay, and we will get the color in the hex code. Now what is hex code? Hex code, there are many types of color properties, okay, like the hex or the RGBA which we used just a few moments ago, and there is RGBA, okay, there is let me show you, there are a lot of properties in color. If we go to this, and there is no color here currently, okay, so here we go to this section, see there is RGB, there is HSL, there is HWB. So there are a lot of colors, there are a lot of formats of color. Okay, so basically what will happen here is we will get the color in hex code. Okay, the hash format. Okay, then we have email. Okay, the problem was that user could have sent even sent their names, okay, instead of email. So in order to validate whether it's an email or not, we use the type as email. Okay, now let me show you in action what does this type actually do. Button, submit form. Okay, so let's say we kept this as blank. Okay, once we submit the form, one second. And we place this as required. Okay, it will ask us to enter the field. Okay, and if we randomly stuff something in this, okay, it will prompt us that please include an @ in the email address. Okay, if I include the @ it will ask me to complete the email address, okay, the domain name. Okay, once I complete, allow me to submit the form. Okay, I'm getting the data here. Okay, currently it's not asking me for date of birth. Still the date of birth is empty. Still it's not asking me to fill the date of birth because I have not mentioned this as required, means this is an optional field. Okay, once I do it as required and I submit it empty, it will ask me to choose the date. Okay, and again the email. Okay, so now I got the date also, okay, and the email also, and the color also. Okay, so this was basically input. Okay, now for the phone numbers, what happens is each and every country has different patterns of phone numbers. Okay, so we have the telephone type also. Okay, or use the placeholder here, enter your phone number and make it as required. Okay, now see, it will only ask me for phone number, means it will ask me only to input the numbers. Okay, if I input something like this, okay, currently it's not working, so it's better to use the regex pattern here. Okay, what is a regex pattern? Regex pattern basically means that we can use a pattern wherein it will check that if the phone number starts with +91 and it has 10 digits, then only it's valid. Okay, otherwise it's not valid. So we can pass that regex pattern here. Okay, we search for Indian phone regex. So see, this is the regex pattern. Okay, so that's the regex pattern, and randomly stuff something. Let's see if it works. Okay, it works. So the pattern isn't working, unfortunately. So okay, no worries. We can also validate this at backend also. So basically whatever validation we are doing here in this part, in the HTML part, it's called the client side validation. Okay, now there are two persons. Okay, in basically in website there are two types of person. Okay, one is the client, one is the server. Okay, so in the client side we must validate all the forms, okay, or the data which we are sending, okay, in order to prevent the data mismatch in the backend. Okay, although we validate in backend also, but it's good to validate the data in frontend also. Okay, and so basically it also prevents security issues. Okay, so let's create a project for this one also. Professional registration form, pro reg form, not HTML. Okay, let's give the title as pro registration form. Okay, and of course I'll be using some stylings, so it will be the pre-built stylings. Let me copy that for you all. I'll show you the HTML structure. Okay, so let's build the form. First of all, there will be a main div which will be the form container, div.form container. I should open it side by side. Not this one. Okay, first will be the form container, next will be the form header, div.form header, which will contain heading as pro registration form, which contains advanced HTML5 form demo. Okay, and next after this div we'll have a form with ID as registration form. Okay, next we'll have a progress indicator also. I hope you have seen this in website, a progress indicator which shows your progress, how much you have filled the form. So for this we'll create one more div with progress indicator. Why we are giving the class names are just for styling, okay, for the CSS part, okay. This has nothing to do with the structure of HTML, okay. So yeah, the progress indicator, and div dot progress label form completion span, which will show as 0%. ID will be progress text, okay. Am I too fast, or am I going at good speed? Can anyone tell me? Pardon me? Okay, you can tell me whenever it is fast, okay. I'll slow down. Okay, so let's continue. Next we'll use the progress tag, okay. Its ID will be form progress, okay. The value will be, initial value will be 0. Max it can go up to 100, okay. So we have built our progress bar here, okay. Now let's build the personal information fields, okay. Personal info field sets, okay. I will use the field set tag here, okay, and a legend tag here. Let me show you what these tag do. Personal information, okay. So it creates a field like something, okay. This creates a field, okay, and the legend adds the heading to the field set, okay. Next we're gonna create a div of form grid, okay. Inside that div create div dot form group, okay. And then we'll create the actual fields. Label for, first we'll ask user the first name, then we'll give the input type as text. We'll give the name as first name as usual. ID will also be the first name. Now why is ID used? ID is used to send the data to the backend, okay. It would be required. Placeholder would contain, oh, sorry, enter your first name, okay, and title would be only letters and spaces are allowed, okay. So you got this, okay. And yes, for the pattern For the pattern, what we can do is basically we can use the regex again, which will check if it's only between something called alphabet, okay, and something between lower cases, okay. So our pattern is also created. Now we have one more attribute, which is minimum length. It should be 2, okay, and maximum, the name can be, first name can be sorry, max length can be 30, okay, and let's say 50. Some have large first names, okay, so let's do it as 50, okay. Now it will accept 50 characters as first name, and minimum length will be 2 characters, okay, otherwise it will throw an error that minimum length was not provided, okay. Next we are going to create a div for validation message please enter a valid please enter a valid first name, okay. So this part done, and okay, so the form group almost created, okay. So next, form grid is created, this form group is also created, and next we need the last name also, right? So let's replicate this one only and create the last name also. Last name, enter your last name, please enter a valid last name, okay. So basically this part is complete, okay. What we are asking here is the personal information, okay, the first name and the last name. This part is complete, so let's collapse this part. There are 2 form groups, okay, and there is one form grid, okay. So let's collapse this. Let's create another form grid, div.form grid, now this form grid will have again the form group, okay. So simply let's copy and paste it here, and herein what we will ask is the email address. So can someone tell me what will be the input type for email? Okay, so the input type will be email itself. And we forgot to change one more thing here, the ID. Here it will be last name and last name. Also this one, last name, okay. Similarly we'll change everything here. We'll name this as email, okay, here also email, and we can put one more property here, autocomplete email, okay. So whatever suggestions will be having here, okay, it will autocomplete for us, like the if I see, but type XYZ, it will show an autocomplete tag for me, okay, autocomplete drop down. Okay, and placeholder is okay. Enter your email address, and okay, so the minimum, maximum length and patterns aren't required here. Okay, it will be auto checked by the type. Okay, this thing will auto check that. And the validation message will be, and please enter a valid email address. Okay, so this part is done. Next, we're going to use the phone number. Okay, so for the phone number, again we are going to replicate this, and for the phone number here we are going to use the tell. Okay, and obviously this will be phone. Okay, and autocomplete isn't actually required here. Okay, so we got the pattern, and it will also be required, so let's keep the required part. Now the placeholder will have enter your phone number. Okay, title will have enter a valid Indian phone number. Okay, same, the validation message will also be the same. Okay, next what we need is date of birth. Okay, so let's collapse this part. Div dot form group, and we'll put a label here because the date of birth input tag doesn't have an option for placeholder. Okay, so it won't show like this, like enter your email address or enter your phone number, so we'll use the label here. Okay, so label will be for obviously birth date, date of birth, and input type will be date obviously, and name will be obviously birth date. Here also ID will be birth date, and it will be required. Also minimum it can go up to 1940 01 01. Okay, and max let it leave. Okay, let us leave that. Okay, what more we can put here is required, we already put that. Okay, so next we require here a validation message. So let's copy the validation message from top. Please enter a valid birth date. Okay, so next we will create another field set. Okay, where we will ask the users their preference. Okay, field set, and this legend will tell professional information. Okay, professional information. Okay, again we're going to create the form group. Okay, we'll give it a label. Okay, label will be for job title. Label will itself say job title. Okay, and of course we'll need to create the input tag for this. So input type will be text. Name will be job title. ID will be job title. Okay, list will be job titles. Now why we are going to use list here, let me show you. Job titles. This will be the placeholder. Start typing to see suggestions. Okay, and next we have a data list tag. Okay, where we need to pass the same ID which we passed in the list attribute. Okay, so we pass the job titles, titles. Now we can pass various options here with some values. Okay, value is equal to SDE, the software engineer, and we can replicate similar values here. Ethical hacker and DevOps engineer. Okay, cloud architect and ML engineer, Kubernetes engineer, and cyber security analyst. Okay, what this does is create a data list. Okay, now if I'm going to type here cyber security, it will give me the suggestion. Okay, you can click here, you can just auto complete this one. Okay, if I am a SDE, say it will give me an auto suggestion. Okay, now next what we need to do is we need to ask the user their years of experience. Dev.form group. Okay, again there will be a label for experience. Years of experience. Okay, and we'll create a div of range container, and input type will be range. Okay, name will be experience, ID will also be experience. Okay, minimum the experience can be 0, max it can be 50, let's say. Okay, and initial value we can put as 3, let's say. Okay, and this will act as a slider. Okay, this is required. Okay, and we can give a span tag here with class as range value, so that we can design this experience value 3 years. Okay, so this part is done. Now next what we can do is use the type number. Okay, input type number. How we are going to use that? We're going to use it using form grid, not the form group. Okay, div.form grid. Whatever classes I'm using, that is simply for CSS. Okay, so, simply for styling, nothing related with HTML. Okay, div.form group. Label for salary, expected salary. So the input type will be number, name will be salary, same for ID also, it will be salary. Okay, so minimum expectancy can be 30,000, and the max it can go up to let's say 1 instance 100,000 lakh 10 lakh. Okay, 5 lakhs. You can give a placeholder, enter your expected salary. Okay, so what happens if I enter 1, it won't take when I submit it. Okay, currently it's I don't have a submit button currently, so it won't work now. Okay, and the last thing which we are going to use is available start date. Okay, div.form group, label for start date, available start date. So the input type will be date, name will be start date, ID will also be start date. Okay, and minimum we can go is today's date, that is 2025/06/18. Okay, okay, so one more last thing is left, is the resume tag. Okay, for asking resume from the user. Okay, so how do we ask resume from the user? The resume is in PDF format or image format, right? So to ask that, we have legend additional info. So in order to ask user their resume, we'll create a div first, div of form group, we'll add the label for resume, upload resume PDF, doc, docx, and the max it can go is 5 MBs. Okay, Okay, there's a typo. Okay, so label done. Now comes the actual input. The actual input will be file. Okay, name will be resume, id will also be resume. How do we pass the validation that the user actually uploads these formats only, like PDF, doc, docx? The user doesn't format jpg, png or photos, right? So we have the accept property here, which will ask for these formats. Okay, and it is required only. Okay, the size thing, the 5 MB size thing, we can validate that through JavaScript. Okay, that is the later part. I will teach you that. And we'll give the validation message here, validation message, please load a valid resume. Okay, so last thing is the button and the checkbox for I agree. Okay, I agree to the terms and conditions. So 1 second. Yeah, after the form group ends, we'll ask the user that whether they agree to the terms and conditions or not. So we'll create another class of checkbox group. Okay, and inside we will use the input type as checkbox. Okay, name will be terms, id will also be terms. Okay, and it will be required. Okay, now the label will be in bottom. Okay, see, got the I agree to terms and conditions. Okay, this part completed. Now we'll ultimately have the submit button form for the form. Okay, button type submit, complete registration. Okay, now let's add the CSS and let's see how does it actually look. So the CSS is always added in a style tag. Okay, there are 3 methods of adding CSS which I will teach you. One of them is style tags. Okay, so we can simply add the style tag here. Okay, and see, this is our registration form which we built. Okay, so what we learned today is the basic input forms. Okay, input types and semantic elements, semantic tags. Okay, so there are a lot of parts still left which we will cover tomorrow, like the multimedia part. Okay, and we will cover CSS also tomorrow. Okay, so yeah, you will get the URL for this project. Okay, the GitHub link, you can study it yourself. Okay, so thank you for today.